I should have walked away the moment she called my wife, just a guest. That was 8 months before the wedding. We were standing in my son's kitchen, the kitchen I helped him furnish, the house I co-signed for, and his fiancée was explaining to me, with that particular smile she had, the one that never quite reached her eyes, why the seating arrangement wouldn't have my wife at the main family table. "It's just logistics," she said. "It'll be easier this way." I looked at my son. He was studying the floor. I didn't say anything then. My family thought I'd lost my mind, choosing silence over everything. But I'd learned something a long time ago working in commercial real estate. The moment you show your full hand is rarely the right moment. You wait, you watch, and you remember everything. My wife, Joanne, had been nothing but kind to that woman from the first Sunday dinner she walked through our door. She'd learned which foods she didn't eat. She'd driven 40 minutes to find the specific brand of sparkling water she liked when she came over. She'd offered to help plan the engagement party, the bridal shower, the rehearsal dinner, and been politely waved off each time. "We've got it covered," was always the answer, always delivered with that smile. My son's name is Isaac. He's 31. I raised him mostly on my own after his mother, and I divorced when he was 9, though Joanne came into our lives when Isaac was 14, and she stepped into that role without ever being asked to. She didn't try to replace anyone. She just showed up at his track meets, at his college move-in, at his first real job interview, pressing his shirts in the hotel bathroom the morning before. She loved him the way women like her love things. Quietly, completely, without expectation of anything in return. He met his fiancée, Priya, through mutual friends about 3 years ago. She was sharp, polished, the kind of person who always seemed to be performing just slightly for the room. I don't say that to be cruel. I say it because it matters to understanding what happened later. From the beginning, there was something off, something I couldn't put words to. She was never outright rude to Joanne. It was subtler than that. She'd redirect conversations away from Joanne. She'd ask me questions directly, and not quite wait for Joanne to finish speaking before she moved on. At restaurants, she'd order for the table before Joanne had finished reading the menu. Small things. The kind of things you second-guess yourself about. The kind of things where if you said anything, you'd sound petty. Isaac didn't see it. Or he saw it and convinced himself he didn't. I've spent a long time sitting with both possibilities, and I still don't know which one is worse. The wedding was in June, a venue outside Nashville, one of those converted farm properties with string lights and a barn, and catering that cost more per head than my first car payment. 320 guests. Isaac's side, Priya's side, her parents' extensive social circle. It was the kind of event where you understood from the moment you arrived that it had been designed with someone very specific in mind, and that someone was not you. Joanne wore a dark green dress she'd bought 3 months earlier. She'd shown me at least 4 options, and I'd told her the truth each time, and the green was genuinely beautiful on her. She'd been nervous about it. Is it too much? Is it not enough? And I'd held her face in my hands and told her she looked wonderful. She did. She does. We sat at table 7, the main family table, parents of the groom and bride, seated 8 people directly below the head table where Isaac and Priya sat. I had assumed we would be there. I had not been told otherwise until we arrived, and a coordinator directed us to table 7 with a practiced, professional smile. I looked at the seating chart. Table 7 was near the back of the room, between the bar station and the exit to the bathrooms. Joanne touched my arm. "It's fine," she said quietly. She said that a lot that day. I could hear the effort in it. The ceremony was beautiful, if I'm being honest. I'm not a man who cries easily, but watching Isaac stand at the end of that aisle, in the suit we'd picked out together 6 weeks before, I felt the full weight of every year behind me. Every school morning, every argument about curfew, every late night when he was in college and called me from his dorm because he didn't know how to handle something. All of it was in that moment. I was proud of him in the particular way that also breaks your heart a little, because you understand it means a chapter has closed. What came next, I've replayed more times than I can count. The reception moved into the barn. Dinner was served. Isaac gave a toast that was warm and funny and very him, until the moment at the end when he thanked everyone. He went through Priya's family by name, her parents, her siblings, her grandmother who had flown in from Mumbai. He thanked his groomsmen individually, with specific memories for each one. Then he held up his glass and said, "And of course, to our families for being here tonight." A general gesture toward the room. That was it. Not my name, not Joanne's name, not the woman who had ironed his shirts in a hotel bathroom. I heard Joanne exhale beside me, very quietly. I didn't look at her because I knew if I did, one of us was going to cry, and neither of us wanted that. The dinner plates were being cleared when it happened. Joanne had gotten up to find the restroom. She'd been gone a few minutes when I noticed a small cluster of activity near the edge of the dance floor. That particular quality of human stillness where something is happening that people are watching but not intervening in. I stood up and moved toward it. I heard Priya's voice first. I don't know what the exchange started with. I never fully pieced that together. What I know is what I saw. Joanne standing near the edge of the dance floor, her hand pressed to the left side of her face, and Priya standing 2 feet in front of her, vibrating with something that had clearly been building for a long time. "You have always made everything about yourself," Priya was saying. Her voice was low but not low enough. Several people at the nearest tables had gone very still. "This is my wedding, mine and Isaac's, and you've spent the whole night looking around like you're waiting for someone to notice you. Nobody wants you here. Do you understand that? Nobody." Joanne's hand was still against her cheek. She was looking at Priya with an expression I had never seen on her face before. Not anger, not hurt exactly. Something more like incomprehension. Like she was trying to make the world in front of her match something she could recognize. I crossed the floor. I put my arm around Joanne and I said very quietly, "We're going to get your bag." Priya said something else behind me. I didn't turn around. I put my body between her and Joanne and I walked my wife to table 7, picked up her clutch, her wrap, and I walked her out through the side door of the barn into the June night. Behind us, I heard music starting up again, the DJ filling the silence. My son did not come out after us. We sat in the car for a while without talking. Joanne was very still in the passenger seat. I had both hands on the steering wheel even though we weren't moving. "She hit you," I said. "It was a slap," Joanne said. She stopped, started again. I was asking her if she wanted me to move away from the dance floor entrance, because people were starting to come through and she didn't finish. "She hit you," I said again, not as a question. Joanne looked out the window at the lights strung up in the oak trees along the driveway. They were beautiful, those lights. She'd said so when we arrived. "I don't want you to do anything that hurts Isaac," she said finally. "I know," I said. I did not start the car for a long time. My phone had 4 texts from Isaac by the time I looked at it. The last one said, "Dad, please, can we talk tomorrow?" I put the phone in the center console and drove home. Here is something people don't understand about going silent after something like that. It isn't weakness. I know it looked like weakness to some of the people who saw us leave. I know my son, in whatever version of events Priya had already started spinning, probably had a story about overreaction, about me making a scene by leaving, about Joanne being too sensitive. I've been in business for 26 years. I started in residential real estate, moved into commercial development in my late 30s, and for the last decade I've managed a portfolio of mixed-use properties across 3 states. I've negotiated with people who wanted to take everything I had. I've sat across tables from men who thought my composure was confusion. I have learned over a very long time that the man who speaks first almost never wins. I didn't call Isaac the next day. I didn't call him the day after that. I took Joanne to our doctor because I wanted her cheek looked at, even though she kept saying it was nothing, because I needed to have documentation that said otherwise. The doctor noted a contusion, a mild one, but a contusion. It went into her file. On day 3, Isaac called me. I let it go to voicemail. He left a message asking if we could meet for coffee. I texted back that I needed a few more days. He sent back, "I understand. I'm so sorry, Dad." He was sorry. I believed that he was sorry. Sorrow, though, is not the same as accountability. Sorrow is what you feel. Accountability is what you do. I met with my attorney on day 5, not to file anything immediately, to understand my options. My attorney, a woman I've worked with for 11 years, listened to the full account, asked several careful questions, and then said, "You have a documented assault." "That's not nothing." "I know," I said. "What do you want?" she asked. I thought about that for a moment. Right now, I want to know what I have. What I had was more than Priya knew. 2 years earlier, when Isaac and Priya had first started talking seriously about buying a house together, Isaac had come to me. He was short on the down payment. The market in Nashville was brutal, and they'd found something they loved and the window was narrow. He asked if I could help. I gave him $80,000, not as a loan, as a gift, because he was my son, and because I was in a position to do it. Except I'd been cautious enough. or maybe just experienced enough to document it properly. I had a letter on file, signed by Isaac, co-signed by Priya, acknowledging the gift and confirming the terms. At the time, the only term was that it was a gift with no repayment required. That letter, my attorney explained, was not directly actionable, but it was useful context. It demonstrated a financial relationship. It established a paper trail of my involvement in their lives that contradicted any narrative about me being peripheral, about Joanne being an afterthought. But the more useful thing was something else entirely. Priya's family ran a catering company, a successful one. They'd built it over 30 years, Nashville adjacent, well regarded in the South Asian community and beyond. They'd catered a portion of the wedding themselves, as a gift to the couple, which meant they'd been operating at the venue under a temporary commercial food service arrangement. I knew people in commercial real estate across that region. One of those people knew the venue's ownership group. The ownership group, I learned from a phone call I made the following week, was in the early stages of a significant renovation and expansion, the kind that required new vendor relationship agreements, updated licensing, renegotiated catering contracts, the kind of thing where a word from the right person about a previous catering arrangement that had involved an undocumented incident and a guest injury, even a minor one, could complicate things. I didn't make any calls. I didn't need to. I simply knew what I had, and knowing it was enough to determine what came next. It took 3 weeks before I met Isaac for coffee. We sat at a place near his office. He looked tired. I know my son's face the way I know my own. Better, maybe. And I could see what the last 3 weeks had cost him. He apologized. At length, he told me he hadn't known what to do in the moment, that he'd been frozen, that he'd gone after us and we were already gone. He told me he'd confronted Priya that same night, and they'd fought until 2 in the morning. I listened. I didn't interrupt. When he finished, I said, "Your wife put her hand across your stepmother's face in front of 300 people, and you said nothing." He looked at the table. "I'm not asking you to choose sides," I said. "I'm asking you to understand that what happened is not something I can minimize to make everyone comfortable. Joanne was hurt, not just physically, and the person who hurt her has never apologized, and you have not asked me what we need in order to move forward." He looked up. "What do you need?" I told him. I needed a direct private apology from Priya to Joanne. Not to me, not through Isaac, directly to Joanne. I needed that to happen before any of us sat in a room together again. And I needed Isaac to understand that going forward, the way he moved through his marriage could not require Joanne to accept being treated as secondary. Those were not negotiating points. Those were the terms. He nodded slowly. I could see him turning it over. "She's going to say she didn't do anything wrong," he said. "I know," I said, "that's between you and her. But my wife didn't do anything wrong either, and she's the one with a bruise in her medical file." That landed. I watched it land. He asked me if I was going to press charges. "I haven't decided," I said, which was true. "Dad, Isaac." I said his name carefully, the way I used to when he was a teenager, and I needed him to actually hear me. "I have been patient. I've been patient for years with things I should have addressed sooner. That patience ends here. That's not a threat. That's just where we are." He was quiet for a long moment. "She's seeing a therapist," he finally said. "She started 2 weeks ago. She said something about anger management, about things that go back a long time for her." "That's a good start," I said. "For her sake, I hope it helps. But it doesn't fix what happened." "No," I said, "it doesn't." We sat with that for a while. Outside, Nashville traffic moved past the window the way it always does. Indifferent, unhurried, going somewhere else. I thought about Joanne sitting across from me, at the dinner table 9 days after the wedding, telling me she thought we should reach out to Isaac, that she was worried about him, that she didn't want this to be permanent. She'd said it with the same steadiness she brought to everything, but I'd seen her hands in her lap, the way she was holding them. That was the thing. That was what Priya would never understand. What I wasn't sure Isaac fully understood either. Joanne was not asking to be protected because she was weak. She was asking, in her quiet way, because she had been hurt by people she had loved, and she did not know how to make it stop. I could not fix all of it, but I could make sure this particular hurt did not go unacknowledged. The apology from Priya came 6 weeks later. Joanne called me at work after it happened, and I could hear in the first syllable of my name that she'd been crying. Not sad crying, the other kind. "She came by the house," Joanne said. I waited. She sat at the kitchen table, and she told me, She told me she had spent her whole life watching her mother be dismissed by people who thought they knew better, and somehow she transferred all of that onto me, and she's been carrying around something that had nothing to do with me. And she was. Joanne's voice caught. She was very honest about it. I don't think she's someone who does that easily. What did you say? I asked. I told her I accepted her apology, Joanne said. And I told her I wasn't ready to pretend nothing happened. But I didn't close the door. That sounds right, I said. Is that okay? That I didn't close the door? Of course it is, I said. This is yours to decide, not mine. There's a version of this story where I tell you it all resolved cleanly. Where I tell you that Priya became a different person overnight, that Isaac found his voice, that we all gathered for Thanksgiving and laughed about the hard year behind us. That would be tidy, and it would be false. What's true is that things have been slow and careful. Isaac calls more than he used to. When he calls now, he asks about Joanne specifically by name, first. A small thing, enormous thing. He doesn't let Priya's discomfort dictate whether he shows up for us. Priya and Joanne have exchanged a handful of messages. They are polite. They are real. They are not warm yet, but warmth can be built. And it can only be built if both people are willing to try. And for the first time, they both seem to be. I never made those calls about the catering company. I don't know if I would have. What I know is that I spent 26 years learning that the most powerful thing you can hold is information you choose not to use. That restraint, the willingness to have a card and never play it, is not the same as having nothing. It's the opposite. My wife was hurt in a room full of people who looked away. I did not look away. I just chose my response carefully, the way I've learned to choose most things. Isaac texted me last week. A photo. Him and Joanne at some bakery she likes, his arm around her, both of them smiling at whatever was just off camera. No caption. He didn't need one. I looked at it for a long time. Then I set my phone down, went back to the reports I was working on and thought, there it is. That's what patience buys you. Not everything, but sometimes the thing that matters most.